ND is one of those brands that I've tried a number of their products, and none of them really came out of my evaluation with good marks. Every one of them so far I wasn't really a fan of. Yet, they were always very polite in communication and thanking me for my review, and despite me not recommending their other products, they still always reached out and asked me to review their new IEMs in hopes that I will like one of those. And this time, they might actually have something. Hey everyone, it's Jamie, and today we're looking at the ND Venus, a budget single dynamic driver IEM. For full disclosure, this IEM was sent in for review, but like always, I'm free to review it without holding back. Okay, so the Venus comes available in 4 color options of black, white, green, and blue, and it's also available with either a 3.5mm cable or USB-C cable. I was sent both versions, but unfortunately the USB-C cable was dead on arrival. I have been told though that the USB cable wasn't there to change the tuning in any way, so it should be the same sound as a 3.5mm version. As for the cables themselves, they are cheap feeling. Being thin and a bit springy, they do feel a little bit prone to tangling if they were just to be thrown into a pocket or a bag. But this isn't really something that's uncommon for a sub $25 IEM. And as a bonus, they are removable cables, which is something that isn't always available in budget IEMs. The shell itself is a rather typical plastic design. It feels light and hollow, which does add a bit to its cheap feeling factor, but it isn't bad. For what it is, it feels like it goes together well where the faceplate and shell meet, and the structure does feel overall decently finished for its price. And in some ways, I might even prefer this shell to some other sub $20 IEMs that it's competing with. Unfortunately, when it comes to the tips, I wasn't able to get the best fit or seal. The included tips are quite thin, with more of a round shape, so when I put them in my ear, the IEM would tend to work its way out quite quickly and easily. And even when I was able to get them to sit deep enough and stay there, the tips would then collapse on themselves and cause a leak. So unfortunately, I did have to swap the tips to get a proper seal, but I guess when you're dealing with a sub $15 IEM, things like tips might get downgraded to help cut costs. Now, when it comes to how they sound, they aren't breaking any new ground, and definitely aren't pioneering any new meta. They're a bit more return to form with a warm V-shaped tuning akin to a lot of popular IEMs in the past. They actually remind me a bit of the classic blonde BL03, which for a long time was a very popular pick at $35. And these do quite well to fit that sort of sound signature while being only $8. These are indeed a budget pair of IEMs, but for the price, I can't really knock them. They do sound quite warm and a bit bloated in the mid-bass, which does make some vocals sound a little bit boomy, but that said, it doesn't sound too congested or muffled for this type of tuning, so different instruments do still get a sense of separation. The treble is emphasized to help balance the bass boost, which does help give it that V-shaped sound, but the treble does sound a little bit grainy with a touch sibilant in certain songs. But luckily, it doesn't come across sounding harsh or with a lot of standout peaks, which could have made this sound piercing. I just don't really hear any glaring issues with this IEM, which would make it unlistenable to me. They just happen to not be my preferred sound. But that said, I can still listen to them and enjoy my music, which is more than I can say with some other IEMs that can be a bit more expensive. So for $8, or even less when they're on sale, they seem to be a decent beginner IEM that might be worth checking out. Just probably avoid the USB-C version. I do still think though that it is a better investment to spend the extra $12 and get a truthier gate or SoundOut 02, which will probably give you better IEMs overall, with probably a more preferred sound signature, and in the case of the gate you'd get a much better cable and also better ear tips. But for what this is at its very cheap price, it's decent, and I have to say that for ND, this is a big improvement from some of their other products that I've heard before. So I have to say on this one, good job.